Good morning, Sangha. Let's begin our service with a recitation of the three refuges. I go to the Buddha, deeply awakened mind, awakening source of understanding and compassion, within you must be cultivated to be unknown. I go to the refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, way of peace, which must be unmotivated to be unknown fully. I go for refuge to Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and integration, which must be cultivated to be unknown fully. I am aware that the three jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to understand loving people and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to live gently and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. But I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that I standing in compassion with the Lord, and I can let living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. The Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra, the Bodhisattva of great compassion from the deep practice of Prajna Paramita, perceived the emptiness of all five skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form is emptiness, emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance, no old age and death, no extinction of them, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna paramita. Therefore, the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance, there is no fear. Away from all perverted views, one reaches final nirvana. all Buddhas of past, present, and future, through faith in prajna, paramita, attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna, paramita, is the great Dharani, the radiant, peerless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest wisdom, the prajna, paramita, gate, gate, para, gate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha, gate, gate, para, gate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha, gate, gate, para, gate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha. The Maha Prajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra. We bow. Good morning again, Sangha. I'm going to speak today about the Buddha's Parinirvana. Usually we celebrate this event in February on the 15th, but we've just gone through Halloween, All Hallows Eve, All Saints Eve. The year is passing, and I felt, what word do I use here? I felt I should speak about this today. First off, what exactly is Pari Nirvana or Pari Nirvana, whichever language you're speaking? It simply means nirvana after death. Someone who has realized nirvana during life, at their death, they enter what is called Pari Nirvana. Pari Nirvana. I apologize. I keep slipping from Sanskrit to Pali, so bear with me. Uh, to understand this fully, we need to understand nirvana itself, and that can be a bit of a challenge, or not. Remember, the Buddha told us, taught his students, that whenever one performs an unwholesome act by word or thought or deed, if you stop and examine that action, you will find that it has its roots in one of the three poisons: greed, anger, ignorance. Nirvana, as a first step, let's say, is freedom from those three poisons. My actions are no longer guided by my greed, anger, delusion, hatred. My teacher once told me it is not an easy thing to achieve awakening, which is the word I use instead of nirvana, simply because to me, it says everything. He explained to achieve this awakening, this nirvana, we have to be able to perform actions, to speak words, to have thoughts that create no karmic residue. I do not do something because I dislike. I do not do something because I like. I simply do it because it must be done. The idea of Parinirvana indicates that there is no more karmic residue in my karmic lineage. I am not a self, not an individual. I am a collection of minerals, of water, and I am also a collection of my experience. I refer to my experience, my history, as my personality, as my ego. But the absolute second I die, my memory file is gone. There's no more me. All those things that I've held in memory, wherever I hold that memory, are no gone, are no longer there because the body that holds them is no longer functioning. But the energy, the choices that this being has made, those live on. And that is the karmic lineage. So if this being sitting before you right now is a greedy person, perhaps that lineage will continue in that way. And the next life experience this lineage has may be more attuned to greed. Whereas if this being sitting before you is a generous person, when this being dies, that karmic lineage, that life force, that energy, which Einstein tells us does not stop, that lineage may be born as a kind and generous person. This is a very, very simplified form explanation, but I hope it helps you see. I hope it helps you want to look further and sit with it and discover. Now, to get back to the Buddha's Parinirvana, in order to speak about this, I grabbed my copy of the Digha Nikaya and looked up the Maha Parinirvana Sutta just to refresh my memories on certain issues of what he had done. And in the course of reading that, I came across something which I'd forgotten about. Um, and I'm going to read it now because right now, in this time of COVID, when we are separated, the only people in the temple right now, myself, Lucas on the controls, and three other people, uh, it feels lonely. I know you're there on Zoom, and I know there'll be people on Facebook, YouTube later. I'm sorry. But community is not community if we're not together. And that is something that I think we're all miss very much. Anyway, in here, in the Mahaparinirvana Sutta, the Buddha is talking to some of his students. And he says, as long as you hold regular and frequent assemblies, you may be expected to prosper and not decline. As long as you meet in harmony, break up in harmony, and carry on in harmony, you may be expected to prosper and not decline. And he's not talking finances here or anything like that. He's talking about the vitality of the Sangha, the community of those who practice what he has shared. Now, the Buddha knew his time had come. He knew he was an old man. He had just gone through a rough patch of illness with his, I think it was intestinal problem or something, a stomach problem. But he knew he was going to die. And he told Ananda, his beloved and faithful companion, when he was going to die. And Ananda said, no, you can't do that. You can't die. You can't leave us. And the Buddha said to Ananda, Ananda, The teaching is the true refuge. Every person must make the teaching his own refuge. Live according to the teaching. Every person should be a lamp unto himself. Ananda, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are present in everyone. The capacity for enlightenment is the Buddha. The teaching is the Dharma. And the community of support is the Sangha. No one can take these from you. I have to explain also that one of the things I always tell young teachers, new teachers, is don't spend so much time reading quotes. Well, I'm going to backtrack on that a little bit because I'm going to read several Buddha quotes from the Buddha himself today, simply because I can't improve upon his words. And some of the things he said as he grew closer to his death, I think are very important. At one point on their, they decided the Buddha wanted to go to Kusangara to die in that small village. And on his way there, they came upon the house of Kunda. And Kunda was a blacksmith, a disciple of the Buddha, and he made a meal for everyone. And he made a special meal for the Buddha, a special dish. Now, there has been arguments throughout the millennia about what this dish was. Some people say it was a mushroom. Some people say it was pork. Um, I tend to believe that it was probably a more closer to the mushroom than the pork, since no one would feed the Buddha meat. Anyway, the Buddha ate part of this dish and then gave it back to Kunda and quietly told him to bury it. He realized it had gone off or something. And later on, the Buddha took Ananda aside and told him, Ananda, the meal we ate at lay disciple Kunda's home was my last meal. People may accuse him of serving me an unworthy meal. So I want you to tell him that the two meals I treasure the most were the one I ate just before my enlightenment. And if you remember that, that meal was the rice pudding, the rice gruel that the young girl had given him when he was near death from starvation. The two meals I treasure the most in my life were the one I ate just before attaining the way, and my last meal before passing into Pari Nirvana. He should feel nothing but happiness for having served me one of these meals. The kindness of our teacher almost extended up to his death. He was concerned about Kunda's feelings and perhaps even reputation. And he made it clear that this was one of his two favorite meals and that Kunda had done him a great honor. In Kusangara, Ananda said, how can you die this place? It's just a little mud hut town. And the Buddha said, someday you'll understand. But Ananda, if you really want to please me, he said, if you want to please me, if you want to express your respect and gratitude to me, there is only one way, and that is by living the teaching. The Buddha and his teaching have helped me in ways I couldn't begin to explain, but lifted me up through the freedom that he taught me was mine, the freedom he taught to help, to guide me to discover. The Buddha's teachings are a great guide. And through those teachings, I have found a great freedom. And to show respect, I try my very best to live faithful to those teachings. The Buddha was lying in a grove of sal trees, which are very beautiful trees. He was lying between two of them, his head at one, his feet at the other. And many people were coming because they had heard he was dying. Word had gotten out. And there was a man there named Sudhada. He had never met the Buddha, but he wanted to talk to him. He wanted to ask him one last question. And Ananda said, "No, he's near death. Just let him rest. Let him be." And the Buddha heard this, and he said, "No, Ananda, no. Let Sudhana come. Let him come forward." Up to almost the moment of his death, he's still teaching. So Sudhana came forward and wanted to know, what is the path to awakening, to enlightenment, to freedom? What do I do? I just want to understand. I've heard your teachings, but I just want to understand it completely and totally. And the Buddha said to him, Sudhana, wherever the noble Eightfold Path is truly practiced, you will find people who have attained enlightenment. Sudhana, if you follow this path, you too can attain enlightenment. Those words are incredibly important to me because I remember when I first came to Buddhism, I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to read every book. I wanted to have a statue of every single thing you could have a statue of. Trying to find all the ways, all the different things that people do. And yet, when it comes down to it, right at his death, he tells us it is the noble Eightfold Path. That is what you do, that is what you practice. And if you look at that path, at the 8 steps in that path, it has everything. Everything you need to know, everything you need to do. And I don't even like that phrase, everything you need to do. It is a guide. It is a guide to tell us this path, this step, and that will lead us there. To be aware, to understand, to speak properly without harm, to act properly without harm. I when I look at the Eightfold Path and the 5 precepts, all I see is respect for others and oneself, to respect oneself and respect everyone else. That is what I see. And the Buddha then gave his very final teaching right before he passed away. All dharmas are impermanent. If there is birth, there is death. Be diligent in your efforts to attain liberation. All dharmas are impermanent. Now, in Buddhism, we use the word dharma to mean 2 things. Dharma with a little d means everything else, everything. A thing, a thought, an idea, an emotion. This mic, this podium, my mustache comb, everything is a dharma, little d. Dharma with the big D is the teaching of the Buddha. So the Buddha is telling us, reminding us once again that everything is impermanent. And if you are born, you're going to die. Now, that's not to bring sadness or anything to anybody. That's not to make you feel depressed. It's just simply the way of everything. I think our sun is, gosh, what is it, 4 billion years old? I don't know. Shane was here. He could help me. But The sun's going to nova someday. Our sun will cease to be. The Rocky Mountains are near at hand, and they're massive mountains, but they're going to cease to be. This planet will cease to be. This bowl bell will cease to be. I will cease to be. It's just an understanding of the way things are. Everything comes into being, everything goes out. And the last sentence the Buddha said, be diligent in your efforts to attain liberation. One of the things that gets in, I don't want to judge anybody. One of the things that gets in my way is laziness. And I don't mean laziness, I don't want to mow the lawn or I don't want to feed the ducks or something. But I mean laziness and, oh, I'm not going to meditate today. I'm just tired. Or I'd rather go watch a game of ball or something. Be diligent. Remember everything I say, everything that all of us, everything we say, everything we do, everything we think has a result, a consequence. Sometimes they're very minute and sometimes they could be global. Everything, every act we take affects something, someone, somewhere. I have been giving Dharma talks for what, 10, 11 years now? And I've had people come up to me and say, and remind me of something I said 8 years ago, and they still carry it with them. And I understand that because I carry things that from teachers I have listened to, things my teacher has have told me. I have said some really stupid things sitting at this dais, uh, not being totally thoughtful of what my words are. But all of us will stumble and all of us will stand back up. That's what the teaching gives us, is that understanding that even when I fall flat on my dumb face, I can stand back up and take some more steps. Don't let any of the things that you might consider to be your weaknesses, your shortcomings, your anger, your greed, or your non knowing, don't let any of them get in your way. Just look to the teaching of the Buddha. I'm going to share a few thoughts in a, I guess you call it a guided meditation. I'm going to read a few little passages and hopefully they will awaken something in one of us, two of us. Please prepare yourself for meditation. Eternally and always, there is only now, one and the same now. The present is the only thing that has no end. If I chase it, I separate into the chaser and the chased. If I am it, I am it and nothing else. Everything in life comes to you as a teacher. Pay attention, learn quickly. Forget mistakes. Forget failures. Forget everything except what you're going to do now and do it. Today is your lucky day. And we bow. Now, I ended the meditation a little early today because I wanted to speak a little bit about Jizo's shrine here. What's not actually Jizo's shrine, Jizo is the center of the shrine. It is the shrine we have here, and most of you know it, but there are new people who don't, as a memorial to family, to friends who have died. And I don't know if you can see really well from the distance from the camera, but there are lots of little objects on there. Stones, somebody put a package of incense. There are funeral flyers or funeral booklets, the things they give out at funerals, they are on there. There's this stuffed Bodhi, which I have no idea where that came from. Uh, there are just lots of trinkets and mementos that people have left to memorialize and to show their continued love for someone. Someone dear to me died a long time ago, and I was heartbroken. And a dear friend said to me, just because they're dead doesn't mean you have to stop loving. And I think this is a symbol of that. Someone has died, but my heart is still with them. Are there any questions? I can't. What do you say? Okay. Um, if there's no questions, are there any announcements? The uh, the fundraising person who usually is here to do that is not here today, and by uh, uh, bylaw, temple bylaw, I may not speak about that. So just let everybody know what here is here. Uh, okay, yeah, and there the only announcement I can think of is that on Thursday mornings we have our Dharma discussion group. Right now we're getting ready to discuss the third chapter of the heart of Buddhist meditation. We meet in the community room. If you are fully vaccinated and you have a mask, please join us. Anything else I cannot think of? Any announcement you may know that people would want? Okay. There is virtual tea afterwards. Our clothing gathas then. For all unskillful actions ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passions, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to penetrate. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. See you at the tea.